Welcome to another episode of Life in the Military Spouses Edition. We're here for the beginning of the year. 2024 is new. It's exciting. It's going to be a year of, I feel, immense growth for you and I think, but also just for the podcast in general. We actually just sat down and talked over what are we talking about? What are we doing? Where are we going with the podcast? What do we want to bring you, give you, and do all these things? So we felt it was only fitting, especially for the first of the year or the beginning of the year, to talk goal setting and what does that look like in the life of a military spouse, or how do we goal set? And Ash, we were talking offline that it's kind of funny. We're opposites. I am very much so a type A. As you can see here, my 2024 is already planned. It's got all the things. I used to be a super big planner, like knew the next 5 years of my life. Whereas joining the military, that kind of squashed that idea, but I'm still a planner. I still like to plan. And you're not, you don't plan. So I think this will be a fun topic for us to talk over, because you're not somebody like me who, like, I have to visually see it. I want to write it down. I want to like be able to mark boxes and check things and keep myself accountable. And you maybe more so mentally look at like the year, what do we want to achieve? But you're not as like, I gotta have the paper. Like I gotta do it.
Yeah. I mean, so I have lists. I need to keep lists to keep myself organized throughout the day. But as far as like looking at the whole entire year and being like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish this year, I don't really do that. I always, like people say resolutions, New Year's resolution. And, I just imagine the people that like, I'm going to go and work out and get back in the gym. And then come the end of January, they've already fallen off the boat. And so that's kind of me. That's my personality, where I don't want to disappoint myself if I have those goals and then I don't accomplish them. And so I kind of take it as things come. Doesn't mean that I don't plan like my days or my weeks, but like big things on, okay, by summertime, like I want to have this done, or by the end of the year, like I want to see this in my family or see this in myself. Like I don't do that.
And we're different. We are very different, because I am that way. I am somebody who, like, one of the big things that Chris and I both have said, that 2024 is the year we move out of the state of Illinois. Like that's just one thing we feel so very, very pulled to. But in the military, it wasn't even, I might not have been as papered and prettied, and like, I don't put time frames on them. I just want to achieve them within the year. Like these are goals that I have, of things that I would like to do. And they're not like, I need to lose 10 pounds or anything like that. It's stuff like, hold on. Like I want to be able to read my scriptures front to back by the end of the year, right? I want to be able to learn how to listen to my body more for fitness. I want to make sure that we have more family time and go on at least one family trip this year. So it's like small goals. I feel like they're small goals, but achievable goals, nothing too outlandish or ridiculous. I use it as more of like a reminder. What do you want to actually achieve this year? As a reminder. So I always do it as that thought process, because I was the person that, I mean, before I met my husband, I knew the next like 5 to 10 years of my life. Like I will graduate on this date. I want babies by this point. I want, this time I'm going to be married with this many kids and this whole thing. Like I had this whole life planned out. I met my husband and that went straight out the window. But I also do like a word of the year. And it just kind of gives me direction. Mm-hmm. And I started that when we were in the military, because in such a unpredictable lifestyle, it gave me something steady. It gives me that steadiness of like, okay, yes, this is chaos. Yes, this isn't, it's unpredictable, but how do I gain patience out of this? How do I gain, like my word this year is patience.
That's a scary
And
word, friend.
oh, I know. Yep. Lots of scripture this year underneath all of the different things that are all about patience and how they relate to like faith and family and all the different things. But it is truly my word this year is patience, because I need to learn how to have patience with myself, with Heavenly Father's plan for me and all these different things. But as I have continued to think about them, some years are easier. I'm like, oh, it's strength. And I started working out all the time, or, like it was, certain things, but it's just that consistency that reminds me like, okay, this moment might not be perfect. It might be unpredictable, but how do I stay focused and in a direction and not just go completely off the rails? I also think that for me, goal setting and at least picking a word for the year and that kind of thing, I live with 2 ADHD people. So if I do not keep people focused, we are off the rails in a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
so that's where I go with that.
We Eric and I were just in like we were talking to our counselor, and because again, I mean, we don't hide it. Like, we totally advocate for mental health and go talk to somebody, things like that. And so, but we were just sitting in, and we just now like, okay, we're in this stage of life that we've never been in before. So Eric has been home. He is not working as heavily. Actually, this coming year that we're entering, like, he won't be going into work hardly at all, because he wrote a memorandum saying like the year out of retirement, like they're untouchable, and um they are just now able to have the time to go do what they need to do. So whether it's for medical or for, I don't know, get your things situated, all your paperwork, like they have that time. And so because of that, they don't really have to go in. And so we're now in this transition again of like he's here, and for Eric, like he doesn't know what to do. And so our counselor was saying like, Ashley, come up with tasks, come up with a list. And this is totally outside my wheelhouse because I don't do that like for myself. I don't need that. I can just see what needs to be done and I do it.
Right.
And then on top of that, you're saying like you have like these plans that you want to accomplish. Like, I've had so many plans in the past that have fell wayside, not for my own doing, but just like, okay, we wanted to buy property, we wanted to buy a house in Kentucky. It was like, nope, not yet. And it's like, I just like, for me, it's like if it's not my timing, it's not up to me. Like, so I'm just going to be flexible and go with the flow and see where God takes us. And so, but for my husband, he's not that way. And so I need to be able to be adaptable as well. And so I'm learning this year, not saying that that's a goal, but it's more like, for me, I think of it as like a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for me that I am continuing to grow. I'm continuing to learn. And it's not necessarily a goal for the year, but just like constantly learning all the time. And
Yes.
that's how I look at it. That's how I see setting goals in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we get so stuck on like goals they need to have a start date and end date. They need to be measurable. They need to be, because we've heard so many time about SMART goals and track it, and you've got to be able to see it and do it. And we get in this mindset that a goal needs such rigorous outlines and standpoints and endpoints and all of that. And it's like, I think personally, and this is how I teach a lot of other people, and I mean how we do it here, and all of that is the flexibility within it. Your goal doesn't have to have an end date. I mean, we would like certain time frames, like, right? Like, I would like to be moved out of the state of Illinois before the kids start school. I would like a family vacation over the summer. I would like certain things, right? But like you're saying, it's not my timing. If it's not conducive during the summer, it doesn't happen in the summer. It might not happen until December 31st. Okay. December 31st is when it happens, right? But we get so stuck in the rigor of a goal has to be this and it has to look this way. But I feel like what you and I both are saying is that I take a word, right? I take the word of patience and it gives me focus. And you take the concept of like learning and growing this year and great, educating, continuing that forward progression as a way of focus. And
Yeah.
so I feel like instead of it being this idea of a rigorous goal that has yes or no, black or white, it
Yeah.
should be this concept of focus. It's just a focus you have. And sometimes when we remove those borders and those hard lines, we actually far exceed what we ever could have possibly done, or what we thought we could have done, right? Because of like, okay, I think of a weight loss goal of like, okay, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds, and then you sit there and hyper focus on the scale and this and that,
Yeah.
and then it goes backwards. You end up gaining 10 pounds because you're like, now I don't understand where this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we can take those rigors away of I want to feel better, right? I want my body to feel better. We can take it, and maybe it's not measurable to a doctor or it's measurable to, me or you, and it's very judgmental of like, how do I feel today, or how does this look for me, right? You might not come out of this year with an educational degree, but you will have learned more about you, your family, your spouse, how to make this all a functioning dynamic in this transitional period that maybe isn't measured by you or me, or isn't measured by the outside world, right?
Right.
And goals should be our own personal thing. And or at least that's how I feel.
No, and yes, I feel like it, yeah, it's so personalized, it's so individual. And like you're saying, I mean, it by our experience already with, I mean, you said you had plans like that just went wayside, right? You had this whole 10-year plan when you were in your early 20s. You knew what your life was supposed to look like. We had plans that we knew what we were gonna do, and it does not work out that way. And so I think just to be just to in like you're saying, not having such like hard lines, the left and right seat for these goals, because by our experience it doesn't work like that. And
Right.
instead of, it's more of, you're saying the word focus, yeah, you're maintaining focus, you're maintaining of maybe an idea of just your lifestyle. It's not necessarily like all line items things of what you want to accomplish, but just, okay, it could even roll over into the next year and being okay with that, but just having like a lifestyle of where you want to be in life, right?
Right.
Because all of it is I'm sorry, I have a lot of background noise today, but all of it is making life better, making family better, making you better, making your marriage better. And however it looks, whenever it happens, but it's always forward progression into those things that just hopefully help you. Or I mean, for me, it's like it just makes me know that like I can look back and be like, okay, we're not where we were, and this is good.
Right. And I think that that is something that when people think of goal setting or that concept of what does this year look like, right? When they define success, it's hard because a lot of people are like, well, I can't tell you that my bank account exploded and I have great amounts of money and I'm a millionaire. I can't say that I have, the newest and fanciest car, or I have, this, that, and the other, right? But we got to remember that, one, this is your goal. And two, it is your definition of success. I think that something, of course, we keep notes. Okay, guys, we write notes when we talked. And a word that came up that you said was lifestyle. And that is something that I talk to so many people over. But just in general, this is something that is so important when we are goal setting, is that it's about a lifestyle. It's not about, did you check the box? It should be something that it's not just for 2024. It's not just for what last year was. It is for your life. Like, these are things that you want for life, right? Like, I want patience. I want to gain the knowledge of patience. You want to gain growth and education, right? Like, that's something you want to gain this year, or grow in this year. And I think that is a lifestyle thing. It's not going to be, it's building blocks. Like, I literally put lifestyle and building blocks, because when we look at it, it should be that. Whenever we set goals, they should be lifestyle goals, things that we can obtain and keep, not just for 2024, but for the rest of our lives, and things that we can build off of, right? Because I don't want to look back and say, well, my 21st year was this, and I lost it all, right? Like, that's not how life is. January 1st doesn't come around and you lose everything from 2023. Your birthday doesn't come around and you lose 20 something, 30 something, 40 something years worth of life. No, you have building blocks that you continue to grow forward and on top of and build from. And I feel like goal setting can be such a scary thing, and that so many people are like, well, I can't do that. I'm a military wife. My life is unpredictable. And I think if we look at it in this sense of, what do we want to focus on? What do we want to achieve? I know, like, our husbands have a different perspective. Like, Chris's goal might be to make a general superintendent, right? Like, it's generally maybe specifics of, like, I want this promotion, right? So he needs to do certain steps to make the promotion happen. And as a military spouse, we understand that, like, okay, if my husband wants to make E6, he's got to do X, Y, and Z along with this and that and this and that to make that a reality. But we have to, I think, as the spouse, if we look at it in the realm of lifestyle, we can then support their goal of a promotion or, whatever it might be, in a better way.
And you said, what do we focus on? Instead of like setting actual goals, especially being in the military. Like, a lot of women, they want to work, they want to have a career, but like, we can't, or they can't sometimes,
Right.
or it's stalled because, like, they're moving, right? And so school takes a little bit longer, or job progression doesn't happen as quickly because of constantly moving. And so in that aspect, yeah, it's hard for the military spouses, because we fall behind the military, which is giving the actual direction of our spouses and where they're going and where they're headed. And so to be able to kind of reframe that perspective on, instead of where we want to be in our job or whatever, like, it's what are we focusing on? That's such good advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing that, like, for me, my experience in all of this, it's like, I had to be okay, and I have to be okay with reevaluating and being flexible throughout the year, because sometimes where I kind of see where my focus wants to be isn't always necessarily where I'm headed. And so, like, okay, you know what? I'm making a right hand turn here and I'm going to refocus on something different. And that's okay. And I personally had to be flexible in those moments where, say, something did come up with Eric's job and a new deployment or a different promotion or moving to a different team, where it made me like, oh, like we're not headed in that direction anymore. And so where are we going now? What are we focusing on now? What am I focusing on now? And so to be flexible and to be okay with those changes really helped just feel more successful
Correct.
in by the end of the year, where I could look back at that year and go, man, okay, this was a good year, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I think you mentioned something in it. You said flexibility, and I think that's the difference. Is that we have to understand we are the 1%, right? And we've mentioned this a lot. We've said it a million and one times. The military people and the military spouses are 1% of the population, and in your case, you are 1% of the 1%. You know what I mean? Like your group is even smaller. But we have to understand that goal setting for us is not going to be the same as somebody else. Goal setting and creating goals isn't as conducive or isn't as rigorous as somebody else's. We have to have that flexibility. We have to have everything comes with flexibility, because I can't say, I even now goal setting of like the idea like, okay, I would like to move, right, by the end of 2024. That's what I would like to do. Like, it's just gotten into reframing, using different words, being acceptable of flexibility. Because, like you said, yeah, we're going to take a right hand turn here that wasn't planned for. How do I refocus, right? It's that repositioning myself to go, okay, that doesn't mean that that goal can't happen. I mean, I had a goal at one point in time that I would be married with 2 kids by the time I was 25. Little did I know that that actually became true until recently, when I looked back and I was like, I was 25 with 2 kids. Was it the idea that I had of what my life would look like at 25? No. Did I check the box of being 25 with 2 kids? Yes. Was it the way that I wanted it to be at, when I was younger? No. Do I look at it 100 times over and go, oh my gosh, I was insane. But like, love the goal, love what I did. But there's times where, yes, we have to look back and we're, you know what, maybe that year was nowhere near planned, right? Nowhere near did you think X, Y, and Z would happen. But it was a good year.
Yeah.
And your goals don't mean that, like, with us, at least, I've learned that with the flexibility, is that doesn't mean that that goal can't happen later, right? I mean, I've always said I worked corporate America and I wanted to be a store manager at one point in time. And once I achieved that, I said I wanted to go ahead and do regional. In the military time, I couldn't. I had to be the stay-at-home person because I couldn't. My retail didn't work where I needed it to be. And then once I got to come, there was a small glimmer where I got to do that and I achieved the goal and marked it off the calendar. And then it got pulled away. Does that mean that I can never achieve that goal in my life? No. Maybe at some point in time I can achieve that, or I adjust and it looks different, right? Maybe instead of regional, I take on my own business. Instead of this, we understand that, yes, there are plenty of military spouses that want to progress their career and go forward. Maybe your career goes on pause for half a second, in the grand scheme of life, and you enjoy the moment of being a stay-at-home wife or, being the mom. I never thought in a million years that I would be the stay-at-home mom. I never wanted to be that. My mom wished that for me. But I never in a million years, if you would have asked me at 18, you would have asked me at 25, I was like, I will be the working mom. Like that was just what I was going to be. I was going to be the working mom and I was going to make it all work and it was going to be fine. And now I'm like, I am eternally grateful that my goal never came true, that I didn't have to. I could be at home with my kids and be that sense of stability for them.
It makes it like that thought makes me think of like how your priorities shift,
Yes.
which makes your goals or your lifestyle shift. And you know, like I think of um okay, like high schoolers right now, like they are so driven like to what's after college.
Yeah.
And whether or what's after high school, whether it's college to get a career, or if it's like some kind of like job, like they want to work, like how, and a lot of it is college. That's like our society. We push education, we push college a lot. Um, um, whether it's like some people take like a year off, but that's kind of unknown in the American like society. And so just for example, like my Olivia, she's not even in high school yet. She is this coming year, she'll start her high school career, and she's already thinking of college. Like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? And she wants to be a vet, so she's been researching schools. And so like then I think about all of these kids that now have graduated high school. I think of my niece and my nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Who are young adults, young 20s. They are just starting their adult life.
Yeah.
And you know, they are very like, well, one of them did join the military, so he's very young in his military career, like a few years. And his wife, like, okay, they work, like this is what we see, like this is after school, this is what I wanted to be. And and I remember that. I remember those times, and I remember all of my friends like at that time, like we all had that same kind of mentality of, you know, career progression, um like earning money, like all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that that doesn't happen later on, but you know, life happened, kids happened, deployments happen, highs and lows happen in life. And now I see priorities like being different.
Mm-hmm.
I see like you on your board up there, you want to spend more time with your kids. You want to do a family trip. Like it's just it shifts at least. And I can only say this for me and maybe for your family. I don't know about for other families, but like this is just our experience. Like it shifted into being more not necessarily um I don't know what the word is. Not, I want to say tangible, but that's not it because spending time is tangible too. So um just it just shifts into something different.
Yeah, they're not so trackable. Like is how I look at it. I go, they're not so measurable, right? Because like define more time. Is that 5 minutes? Is that 20 minutes? I don't know. Because to me, it's the quality of time that I get to spend with them. I could be sitting in front of them staring at them and the both of us be on the phone, but that doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Like, are you going to sit and watch a TV show with me? You know, like Jackson and I have both been like, oh, we want to watch this show together. So we pay attention. We make sure that we don't watch it without the other one. Like we do that. I make sure to spend a little bit different time. Like I spend different time with each of them because it's based on them, right? And I think like you mentioned, our priorities shift once we once we join the military, our priorities shifted. Because we understand life differently. We go through more, we see life differently, we look at it all much, much differently. Because we understand that it can be gone in a day. It can be changed in an instant. Like one phone call can change your entire life, good, bad, or
Yeah.
otherwise. Like we all have experienced this. We've all experienced the phone call where her husband goes, okay, we got orders. And it's maybe not to the place you want to go. It's maybe not to the thing you wanted. Like, right? We've all had life-changing phone calls. Doesn't matter where you're at in the military. Like, and it can come at any instant. There's no like proper or appropriate or liked time. And with that priority change, I feel like we also look at what does success look like, right? At 18, success looked like a career, kids, a husband, a white picket fence, and a nice house. Like that's what success looked like. Now I am like, can we all just be in the same house and not yell at each other? Like, can we just do that? Like, because the priorities have changed, but we also define success differently. I don't know, is that because of parenthood? Is that because of military? I think it's a combination of both. Where my definition of success really, I don't know if it can be measured all the time. Because it's different. It's just, it's not that tangible thing anymore. It's a happy home. It's successful children, whatever that looks like for them. It's a thriving and happy marriage. My definition of a thriving and happy marriage is probably very different than, might be different than other people. I learned that this Christmas we went to see my mom, and I sat with my brother, and my brother is 10 years younger than me, so he's 25, and a girlfriend, been around together for a while, have no intentions of having kids. They love mine, but they are glad to let him go at the end. No intentions of kids. They both focus on their careers. And they don't think that they're going to really move too far from their friend group. Like, they want to make sure that wherever they move, if it's not in their current area, they have a really strong friend group. And I look at them and I kind of chuckle, because I'm like, I remember being 18 and 20 and thought differently. I always knew I was going to be a mom. I always knew that kids in a marriage was my thing. My brother is like, no, thank you. You took care of the kids thing. I'm good. And I like, so it's just, does that make my goal of being a mom less? No, it just makes it different. And I think we need to understand that we are part of the 1%. We are part of, each of us is different. So our goal is going to be different. Whether it's measurable is going to be different. Our definition of success and our priorities are very different. But it's up to us to define it. And
I was just thinking, like, so okay, your brother is a civilian.
Yeah.
They have that luxury to pick and choose what they want.
Correct.
Where they want, how they want it. And us being in the military, we don't have that luxury. You join, or you married into it, or you and your spouse decide together that you're going to join, that kind of thing. But once you're in, you give up that right to pick and choose your lifestyle. And you can create a lifestyle within the military, but it's still on their terms.
Correct.
And so I'm listening to you on his viewpoint on life, where he thinks he's headed, or where he's headed. And like you said, you chuckle, and I'm just going, man, like, what a luxury though, to have that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And because we don't have that. We're told where to go. Of the first couple of years of our marriage and him being in, it was kind of even told like who our friends were going to be, because they're so busy that all we had, and we chose, yes, we did choose it. We had the choice to go seek other friends, which we're learning now, but we were thrown into like team life, and that became our friends. And so yeah, it's just it's so different. And I yeah, in a civilian world, you want to settle down, you want to stay where you are. Even some of these young military wives that I know now, like, they have this idea of like, no, we want to buy a house here and
Good
we
luck.
want to settle down. And I'm like, this is your first duty station.
Yeah, right. You're like, good luck. Have fun with that.
You're only like in 4 years, like you're getting ready to go. And on top of that, I'm going, wait, because you might like someplace else. You do
Yes.
have that option. The flip side of it is you do have that luxury where you can experience different places.
Mm-hmm.
And and so to have like that focus and that mindset of like these goals in life shift because of the military and not be like a civilian goal, a civilian mindset is it's different. It's just different. And
Yeah.
again, it goes back to being flexible
Mm-hmm.
with what is going to be brought to you in the military because you are going to get thrown someplace where you never thought where you were going to go before.
Okay. Yeah.
You may like it.
And yeah. It was funny because I was talking to Danny recently. We both know her. And she's for once the first time in a very, very long time of her life. She's not being told, she's out, fully out and retired from the military. She's not married to the military, and she's completely detached from the military. And she goes, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I went through that. Like we went through that. Like where you sit there and you're like, I don't know what to do. Like somebody's not telling me where to live. Somebody's not telling me who to be friends with. Like I've in and we were, like I said, we were only in 7 years, and we even went through that where we're like, so much of that moment of that career is dependent on what somebody else tells you you're doing. It's hard because you're like, now what? And I told Danny, I go, take the year. I go, take an entire year to just be in this moment. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I wanted her to understand that, like, it's not going to be like, you're not going to get the answer right away. Like, take the time to embrace the moment and be excited. But to figure out, what do you actually want, right? For once, you're not being told. And you'll see it, and I know we see it all the time, is that there's still the repercussions. Like, we're out and we still sit here and go, okay, well, yeah, I could move anywhere and I could get a job anywhere and we can uproot these kids in a heartbeat. And we're sitting there like, but nobody's told us. Like, can we go here? Like, we've been debating this, and you've heard the conversation of our own house where we're like, well, can we? And we're like, I don't know, can we? Like, yes, we can find a job anywhere. Yes, we can have those luxuries, like you said, of a civilian thought process. But it's become so much of our life that it's hard. Once it's gone, you're still like, well, like Chris now is like, well, where does my job tell me to go? Okay, sir, I need us to not be on that mindset. Like, but it's so ingrained. It's so, no matter if you're spending 4 years in or you spend life in, it still becomes a part of you because so much of you has been dictated by something else.
Yeah. And
that
the goals
match it.
Yes. And so like you're saying, you've been out, I'm learning from you when your experience, because we're going to be there. It's like Eric and I look at each other and it's like, we can literally throw a dart on the map.
Yes. And go anywhere.
And go there. Like if we want to move to Italy, which there've been jobs available in Italy, we could. Yeah. Like we don't have to be near anything if we don't want to. Exactly. Because right now we have to be at least so many minutes or an hour or so to base. And so it's like we don't have to be, our goals are going to shift again.
Correct.
And how we're going to navigate it, I don't know. Again, it goes back to flexibility for me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it's interesting because you're right. Like now you could literally, like, you look back and you almost look at the civilian side of it and you're like, hold on, you all have the ability to throw a dart at anywhere and pick anywhere to live, do anything you want. Like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, that's too much flexibility. But then you also, like, in our lives, we've gotten to the point where we like kind of chuckle and we're like, it's about the 2 year time frame. Moving furniture, like because it's easier to move furniture than it is to move our house every 2 years. Like, you just kind of like, it's certain things that you didn't think you would pick up from the military or you weren't paying attention to, but yet they adjust your goals, they adjust your focus, they change your priorities and your lifestyle, because our lifestyle is now almost like flexibility in the gypsy lifestyle. Like, we've gone to this mindset where we're like, well, where can we go now? What's next? How about this?
It's kind of weird, right? Like, it just kind of popped in my head, like one of those light bulb things, like where civilians have that flexibility and that luxury, but yet they choose to stay, right? And a lot of them settle down. They never leave the town they grew up in. And
Yes.
yet here we are, and in the military lifestyle, you want to settle down, but the military is causing you to go. You don't have that. You don't have it, but yet you're going. And all you want to do is settle down, but yet you see, like,
and you try to settle down, you're like, and next.
yeah, and you don't have that luxury to I don't know. It's kind of weird, like the dynamic, like you have that freedom to go wherever and you don't take it. And yet here we are, we're being told where to go, but yet like you're just going.
Yeah. And then truly, like, your goals shift. They very much so do shift once you leave and you leave the military and you become that veteran status and that thought process. For a while, you're kind of lost. You're like, well, do I settle here? Because nothing ever really feels like home. We've made home in Colorado, and we've always said that, you know what, we can move a million times over, and family is in Chicago, but our hearts and our home, and where we even my children call home, is always going to be Colorado. Just because of what happened in that short period of time that we were there was more like home to us than anything else. But it's interesting because our goals shift of like, what do we want to achieve? How soon do we, like, instead of a goal being, like my brother's like, this year's planned out, but maybe next year we can plan like a sibling trip. And he's like, and in 5 years, this is what we're looking at. And I was like, what? Like, I know I have that flexibility now to be like, yes, in 5 years, this is what we're going to do. And, like Chris has even asked me, like, what's your 5 year plan? And I was like, can I get through today? Like, can we get through right now? And our goals just change. It's part of a lifestyle. It's part of something different, but no matter what, like, and I want us to all understand is that when we talk goal setting, and you're going to see it all over social media, you're going to see it all over the place, you're going to hear about it all over the place, is that it's up to you. Whether it's on a piece of paper, whether it's mentally, whether it's one word, or it's a list of items, we get to choose that. Mm-hmm. The way to be successful with it is to understand that there's flexibility. And you both, you mentioned that a lot, is that with every goal, there has to be flexibility, because we live in a lifestyle that one phone call and the whole thing can be changed. And it takes readjusting, it takes transition, and it takes refocusing. But I think the guys have learned that lesson a little bit easier than we have as spouses. Or at least I feel like Chris is just like, well, just change focus. And I'm like, hold on, what? Like, I got four other people I'm like whiplashing around here, like, and I think that's something different that we didn't speak on yet, is that the guys are so quick to be like, well, this is the order. And you're like, hold the phone. What does this mean for all the rest of us? Like, and it's trying to make the whiplash not as hard for us all. And that understanding, yes, you gave up a large portion of your personality, your life, your goals, your wants, your wishes, your dreams. But you can look back later. Like, I look back and I remember sitting there many a time where I was like, I just want to finish school, or I just want to achieve this goal. And I was so mad that I couldn't do it. I had given it up. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm thankful for those times. Like, I'm thankful that I didn't have a day job where there's now his inflexible, his continuous, unchanging, ever changing schedule. And I could be that steady for my kids. And I could be that rock that was never going anywhere and could ease the whiplash and ease the situation up as he went full steam ahead. I could be that anchor. And I think I'm thankful for it. But we've talked about being thankful, but goals is one of those things that is, as long as we have flexibility and focus, we can do anything that we set on it.
I love that. Like, and just to add to, your goals don't have to stop. Like, or those actual hard set goals, like for those who want to finish school or go to school or have a career. If that is something that you strive for, if this military lifestyle is stalling, that doesn't mean that it's done.
Correct.
It just means that it's delayed.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that understanding and that flexibility that, okay, like it can still happen. It just may not
Mm-hmm.
happen when I thought. Like,
Correct.
that can maybe ease that transition into this new way of life with living in the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't give up on it.
Right.
Just if you're having a hard time with, if that's you and you're having a hard time, like, I wanted this, like it's not happening as fast as I thought, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have an example. I worked corporate, and then I met Chris, and we went joined the military. And I always had said, ever since working in my corporate world, that I wanted to be a store manager. Normally people can do that progression, especially at the pace that I was going, within a couple of years. By the end of year 5, most people can be looking at that promotion. By year 6, they have it locked in. And cool. I mean, I didn't see that until year 12, because I had a gap where there wasn't time where I could do that. There wasn't gaps that, there was gaps in that moment where, yes, I was working towards it, but I wasn't able to do it as quickly or as consistently or any of that. And so it doesn't mean that the goal didn't happen. I achieved it. I had the business card. I had the name on it. Like, I had all the, the office, and required all the answers and, business trips and all the things. I did that, but it just took me longer to get there. It doesn't mean that I can't achieve it. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. It just might take us longer. And that's where the flexibility comes in. But goal setting is hard yet easy, all at the same time. It's about focus. And I think if we take out the black and white lines and the rigors of, like, gotta check the box, and go contrary to what society tells us. Society says smart goals and this and that. Well, society is the 99%. You have a different idea, and you follow a different set of rules, and doesn't mean the goals can't still happen. Doesn't mean that you can't own a property in Kentucky, or you can't do this or that. It doesn't mean that you can't own a home in that area. It doesn't mean that you can't be a mom. It just means that it might be delayed. Might take you a little longer to get that to be yours, or that you might own that property. You might not see it for the next 6 years, but you might own it. It's just, it's flexibility with it, is that, yes, what we've said a million times. Oh, we want to own this house. And I was like, how long are we going to be here though? Like, are we upside down on that loan? And you might have to rent it out for a while, or you might have to go for a period of time where, like, I wanted to be a mom. My husband didn't see my child until he was 3 months old. Like, that's okay. Like, you just have that flexibility, and love yourself through it. Give yourself grace. I think that's the other thing, is giving yourself grace that, you know what? Sometimes it won't work. or it might not be what everybody else thinks is working, but it's yours.
Yep. I think that sums it up pretty good, man. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And next week we'll be talking over family support, and that I have like so many ideas on that, because this might be the next episode that we talk on family support is going to be a good one to maybe share with others. Might not be what you need to hear as the military spouse, as the listener. You might not sit there and be like, oh, I can take all of this to heart and like learn from this. This might be the episode that you share with others and say, this is how I need support. Because sometimes finding the words of I need are really, really hard in the military life. So we want you to be successful. And so the month of January, you can look for ideas and tips and episodes on all things success, and going forward to be successful, because we want that for you. We want nothing but happiness and success for you. So be on the lookout for next week's episode, and we will talk to you guys later.